Hi, I'm Ross Jacobs. Today's topic is about lateral flexions and the reasons why I don't teach them to young horses and I don't teach them at my clinics to my students. The first thing we should probably talk about though is what is a lateral flexion for those who aren't familiar with it. And then I will move on to the problems as I see it with lateral flexions. So let's get started. So lateral flexion is nothing more than picking up a feel on the lead rope or the rein and asking a horse to softly bend his neck around while keeping his feet still. It can be taught on the ground and it can also be taught under saddle. Almost every trainer and clinician in the modern horsemanship world teaches lateral flexion, including people like In fact, it's a very long list of those who do teach lateral flexion, and I would guess it would be over 90% of trainers and clinicians. Whereas, on the other hand, it's a very short and lonely list of those who don't teach it. So this is why I don't like lateral flexions. The inside rein has no influence over the hindquarters when you ask a horse to keep his feet still. That means the connection between the rein and the hindquarters is broken. And as a result, it's very, very difficult for a horse then to get accurate in response to the feel on the reins. It affects the front end, but not the back end, and this creates problems. By far, the most common problem I see in horses that have been trained to perform lateral flexion is how unbalanced they are in their turns and their circles. They almost all inevitably fall out of the circle. If you notice this horse, how it comes around to the left-hand circle, and here you'll see the inside forefoot crossing in front and across to the outside of the outside fore, making it drifting to the outside. A lot of people would argue that that's a problem with the shoulders, but it's actually because the connection between the inside rein and the hindquarters is broken. An even more dangerous consequence of teaching lateral flexions is what's called a rubber neck, where a rider flexes a horse in one direction but the horse travels in the opposite direction. And again, this is because there is a broken connection between the feel of the inside rein and the hindquarters. So the question arises, how do we avoid the problems that lateral flexion causes? Well, we do this by teaching a horse to softly yield to the inside rein alone without putting pressure to drive the hindquarters across. This has all the advantages of teaching a soft response to the reins that the lateral flexion does, but all avoids the problems of disconnecting the hindquarters. This is my mare 6. She's a thoroughbred in her mid-teens, and I'm going to demonstrate how I use the inside rein to connect to the hindquarters. I should say from the start that yesterday 6 had an altercation with a concrete feed bin, and she damaged her right hind. It's a little swollen and she's a little sore on it today. But I think the couple of minutes that she's going to be able to help me with this video isn't going to do a lot of damage. So we'll move on. But I just thought I'd mention that. So what I'm asking here is I take a feel on this right lead rope, right rein, ask 6 to think around to the right, and she will step her hindquarters around like that. It's as simple as that. If I ask her to think around to the left, this is her harder side, but there she had a nice strong thought. So the thing I want to point out here that's important to understand is, why did she step her hindquarters over? She stepped her hindquarters over because the feel on that lead rope put a strong enough thought in her mind to look to the left, think to the left, and it was such a strong thought that she yielded her hindquarters to line up where her thought was. Imagine a bucket of carrots just sitting there on the ground. If that was there, Six would look at those carrots and step her feet around to face them. She wouldn't need anything other than her thought to bring it around, to bring her hind feet around. So what I'm trying to do is inspire her to think that the feel of this lead rope, or if I was on her back, it would be a rein, would initiate a strong enough thought to think around the corner and line up her body. I don't want to have to rely on using my inside leg to get her to escape from the pressure of the inside leg to step her hindquarters over. I want the feel of the reins to offer her a thought. And that thought is to line her body up in the direction where the rein is asking her to go. That's a big difference. And that is putting a connection between the rein or the lead rope and her hind feet. Later on, when she's got this well established, then you can start, if you want to, start teaching her to yield just off your leg. But until you've got a good connection with the reins, that they can both influence the front end through a forehand yield and a hind end through a hindquarter yield, and only the reins, working through her thought, then she's not ready to start driving her hindquarters away. That will only just instill some crookedness and also a little worry. So what happens when you have a horse that's taught not to yield its hindquarters, that it's been taught that just to bend its neck and its feet are to not move? Six won't do this, but I'll demonstrate what I might do, because a lot of horses that come to clinics have been taught to bend their neck and not move. So I'll pick up a feel and I'll tap the saddle, or I'll cluck, something to encourage life in her feet. But it is the feel on this rein that tells her what to do with that life. So I'm not directing her by clucking, I'm not directing her by tapping the top of the saddle, or if she had no saddle it would be her back. All I'm doing is say, do something with your feet, and the rein or the lead rope tells her what that something should be. And when that gets established, you don't need to keep doing that, because she'll feel you get ready. She'll take her thought around there and she'll step her hindquarters. Lastly, if you've got a horse that doesn't want to think around it but will bend their neck, like so many horses do, you just wait. Don't release for the bending of the neck or even the movement of the hindquarters. Wait, wait, and wait, and wait, and I would accept that. Because she thought strongly around to the right. You get what you release for it. If you release just because she's bent her neck and she's looking out there, then that's what you're going to get. Every time you pick up the rein, she's going to look out there and push out there. I want you to keep in mind that everything that's important about these hindquarter yields or giving to this rein happens here. It doesn't happen back there. When this is right, that will be right. But just because the hind feet are stepping over does not automatically mean that she is thinking around to the corner that you want her to think, and that she's actually balanced through the turn. Focus on what's happening here, where she's thinking, how she feels in your hand, and then everything around the back end will be okay. Well, I hope that gives you some things to think about Whether you incorporate those ideas into your training or not is up to you, but at least I would urge you to give it some consideration and experiment, play with these ideas and see if they can help you and your horse. Thanks for watching. Good night, Alice, wherever you are.